Hello. So I need to do a follow-up on these rear discs for the Trans Am because it's been a heck of a mess. So I found them at O'Reilly's. The computer says they have a ton of them. I may have said some of this in the last one, but I took them apart. So they sent me the very first one I got was this. Beautiful, new hardware, new everything, driver's side. The next one they sent me, that had a part number of 184140. And so we ordered an 184141 passenger side. It came in, it had been marked out by hand on the box and written over as a passenger side. It was also a driver's side. I ordered a third one. It came in and was I didn't even look at it other than I glanced at it real quick and said, send it back, which was probably a mistake because it may have been a left one, I doubt it. But it was machined so far on the front of the piston, you couldn't get the brake pad in it. It was just bad. So I took it, sent it back, ordered another one that they say is the left one. It came in, it's also right side. Also left side driver. And it had passenger hardware. So at this point, I'm kind of arguing, I won't say arguing, they were really good at O'Reilly's, but I had to convince them that I knew what the hell I was talking about. But at least they tried and they eventually understood it because they were just like, oh, these are the same. You just have to mount one backwards, one's the other way. And I ended up taking pictures of the rear end that shows where it mounts on the front there, where it mounts on the rear here. I've heard that Cadillacs, certain ones would fit. Well, I think that's the case, but I think the ones that fit on the Cadillac are both driver's side, and they just flip one. The problem with this one, they're both driver's side, but they're made to mount both from the rear or both from the front. And you can tell on the Trans Am, that one mounts backwards. That one mounts forward. And because of that, there's different hardware. So all this video was just to show you the difference because I've not seen that. Lots of videos, good videos on rebuilding them. They're actually pretty simple. I just started to go with rebuilt or new because if you watch the old videos, these things were rusted shut. And I ended up breaking a bleeder, getting a bleeder, which reminds me, I got new bleeders in my pocket I gotta put out here before I lose them. So I found new bleeders, but Rock Auto has all the repair stuff. Hopefully it's the right one. You get away for about $60 for everything except new pistons. But I just wanted to make this real quick and show you the difference in the left and right side. Now, the issue is, and I think, honestly now, I think this has happened to a ton of people. If you take a driver's side and put it on the wrong side, or take the passenger and put it on the wrong side, your brakes will still work. But it has to have the hardware for that side, but your emergency brake will never work. And your pedal will get spongy over time because that is what, as your brakes wear and your pads come closer together, the emergency brake mechanism is ratchets. And I'll show you that real quick too if I can. So as you squeeze down so far, it then will pop back, but it's ratcheted internal. I'll show you that. It's easier to show you than explain it to you. And so therefore your brakes will always work because that's just the hydraulic side of it. Then when you put the mechanical emergency brake in, it will never tighten. It's actually ratcheting backwards, and you think you're setting it. It may work because maybe you've got one side that works, but eventually it will, I won't say it will fail, it'll just get softer and softer to the point you got no brakes. Unless you do your own work, you'll take it to mechanic, he'll figure it out, charge you $500 for just adjusting them. That's the way it is. So here's the difference. The castings are exactly the same. If you look at the casting, it actually even says R on it, but so does this side. Everything is exactly the same on these. You can see these, I can set these side by side, and they are exactly the same. Nipple bleeder, this is where the brass fitting goes on. Nipple bleeder, this is where the brass fitting goes on. They're exactly the same. This is what's different from one side to the other. And internally, this is what's different. So these levers, they're actually marked. If you can look and get it just right, man, it's hard to see it on there. I actually stamped these with a 1 so I would know they were, but there you go. You can see the R right there. That's your right side. Then you go over here, and there's an L right there. That's your left side. And you can see the difference in them now. Get all my black drippy stuff out of the way. How that one's made to be on the spring on that side, and this one is made to be spring on this side. So that's different. And then these are different. This is the passenger side, R, right, passenger side. And the one that matches that actually has a number in it, 403. Now, whether that's in all of those, couldn't tell you. I just know what mine has. And this one has a real hard to read. It looks like 474. Looks like 474. And it's different. So they will interchange, but, and that's what I got. I got a driver's side. When I ordered the 4141, which should have been the passenger side, I actually got a driver's side caliper with passenger hardware on it. And send that back. Because at this point, I literally had 4 remanufactured calipers from O'Reilly. They were all driver's side. One of them had the wrong hardware on it. But the way to tell that is you have to spin the lever with it on there, because like I say, it'll go on there, but here's the deal. This is your driver's side, and you see I go counterclockwise. If I move the rear lever, it's back here on the piston, right? And to squeeze it down, you know, there's going to be a spring here and all that. You squeeze it down. that to tighten the brake has to go counterclockwise, see? Because that would push the piston out. So the lever, sit on here, goes counterclockwise. You can see that that's your self-adjuster. That would come out and push the piston out, push and apply your brakes. It won't go this way very easily, but it will move. It's a self-adjusting thing in here. It goes back to a stop. So you can actually turn that lever. If you put that lever on there, it will actually turn. See, I'm moving without moving the piston. It moves, but that's your reset on here. Applies the brakes and then reset. It'll only reset if you go so far. You'll actually, when you apply these, there's other videos that show you how to adjust them. You only want it to move about that far. I mean, that's all it's going to move. Once it starts, that's when you first set it up. Apply the brake, there it is. When you get to the point that it's wore down, that it goes further, it'll actually ratchet in there and it won't go back all the way, but it'll always be tight. It'll go back. In other words, it's had enough room to slip back and be tight. And that's the way you adjust these things. Just, I'll throw that in there. You actually pull the lever off, put a wrench on it, spin it, put this back on, and you want it to sit on there as close to that stop as you can get. Excuse me, and then you're tight. So that's that. But back to this is how you can tell the difference. Counterclockwise applies the brake, and if you pick one up in the store, just push the brake handle, pop the spring out if you need to. Driver's side, piston comes out when you go counterclockwise. Passenger side, oops, let me break it loose. Hadn't cleaned these yet. See that? Clockwise. Passenger side goes clockwise. Clockwise, comes up. Counterclockwise, comes up. So that's the only way you can tell that. And what I figured out is, I think only the right sides work on the Cadillac. I'm not sure. I'm not even going to bother researching it. But I do know when I've looked those up, the 4140 is the same number for it. I didn't even bother to dig into it any deeper. But just kind of putting things together. So you're they're just rebuilding them and throwing them in there, which has to be the case. They just think, whoever's rebuilding this stuff thinks the brackets are what's making them left and right. But I've had 5 ordered. They've all been driver's side. They'll fit, they'll go on, it'll operate the emergency brake, but it's not pushing the piston out. It's doing nothing. And unless you really know what you're doing or pay attention, you may not even know that. So anyway, that was that. I just want to see, you can absolutely not tell from the caliper. You cannot be 100% sure because the hardware's right. The only way you're going to be sure is to pick it up, and if you got strong man hands, you can move it, is see which direction it turns, and then try to remember that. On the driver's side, it goes counterclockwise. Passenger side, it has to go, always does it to me, has to go clockwise. And once it's like anything, you got to do it 3 or 4 times to put it in your head to see actually what it does. And that's because, I'll walk one over here and show you. for this to go on the passenger side, the rear end sitting there, that goes in. Keep looking at different things. And you can see that puts the bleeder. See, there's the rear end. That puts the bleeder up top, which is where you want it. And then it pulls the brake towards the front of the car. It does not. I've seen lots of ads where people have them wrong, and they say the brake line has to go over, and then the emergency brake line, and pulls toward the front. But on the passenger side, because it's on the rear, it has to go around. You just have to find a longer cable, and that's not true either, because it pulls. I'm confusing myself right now. Because if you take that, it's easier to show you. There's the rear. Now you flip this around. It mounts right there. It may be from the back, bleeder on top, and obviously the piston goes on over the rotor. It's hard to see that, I know. But because the bracketries are different, they both pull the emergency brake from the front, if that makes sense to you. Anyway, I think it does. I just wanted to throw that out there where I had these apart. I found everything I needed at Rock Auto, which is all of these, new O-rings, and I've got $60 in it, and a couple hours of sandblasting and doing that. That's why I went and ordered them. I thought, hell, for these rebuilds were $60 a piece. And I thought, well, I'll just go with that. I look online. Summit says they have some, but again, I'm not going to order anything. You can't tell what you're going to get. I've done this 5 times, and you pay for shipping and all that, you end up losing money. But yeah, I'll return them and get my money back, but you pay that extra for postage to get it here, and it starts adding up. So finally, I'm like, I'm going to try. So I heated, soaked them in oils and did things, and then once I got them sandblasted, I just put some epoxy primers on, and don't just use paint. The brake fluid will eat it off. Use a good epoxy, and obviously you get it on your hands. It don't want to come off right away either. But that was it. I mean, the only choice left, if something happens not to work right, I guess I could drive up to Summit here in Ohio and stand there at the counter and look at what they've got. I don't know. You kind of run out of choices for a while, but luckily I think my cores were good, so I'm just going to do that and return these. But it was a week. It's just kind of wasted time. You wait on things, you go down, you get it, it's wrong, you order another one, you go down. Y'all know the story, but at least these guys at O'Reilly's tried to help. But that's it. On to the next project.